The sign went up on a Tuesday morning in late March of 1987. Harold Kemper stood in the gravel lot of his New Holland dealership and watched two men bolt the plywood sheet to the front of the building. The letters were painted in black. Estate sale. Everything must go. April 18th. Harold had been dead for 11 days. His son Doug had flown in from Phoenix and made the arrangements in 4 hours. There was no will that mentioned the business. There was a mortgage on the building and liens on half the inventory. Doug did not farm. He did not know tractors. He knew that his father had worked 7 days a week for 41 years and still owed money when he died. The auction was scheduled for a Saturday. By the Monday before, every farmer in 3 counties knew about it. Some had bought their first tractor from Harold in the 1950s. Others had financed repairs on handshake terms during the farm crisis in the early 80s. Harold had carried debt for men who could not pay him. He had opened the shop on Sundays. He had delivered parts in snowstorms. None of that mattered now. The auctioneer was coming from Omaha. Doug had hired him because he moved inventory fast. On the morning of April 18th, the lot was full by 8 o'clock. There were pickups parked along the county road for a quarter mile in both directions. Men stood in clusters near the shop bays, drinking coffee from thermoses, not talking much. The air smelled like diesel and dust, and the faint sweetness of hydraulic fluid that had soaked into the gravel over 40 years. There were 32 tractors lined up in rows. Most of them were New Holland. A few Fords from the years before the merger. One old Fordson that had been sitting behind the shop since 1971. The big ones were in front. A 8340, two 7840s, a TW35 that had only been on the lot for 8 months. Behind them were the smaller models. A 5640, three 6640s, a couple of old 3930s with worn paint and replacement seats. Doug stood near the auctioneer's trailer with a clipboard. He wore a polo shirt and khaki pants. His shoes were clean. He did not look at the men in the lot. He had been polite when they offered condolences. He had thanked them, but he did not know their names and he did not try to learn them. The auctioneer started at 9. He was a heavy man in a cowboy hat and he spoke fast. The first tractor sold in 4 minutes. A 7740 with 1,800 hours. It went to a farmer named Virgil Trask for $18,000. Virgil raised his hand twice and then stopped. Someone else kept going. Virgil walked back to his truck and did not bid again. The second tractor was the TW35. It was blue and massive, and it had cost $54,000 new. Harold had taken it in trade the previous summer. He had planned to sell it by spring. The auctioneer opened at $30,000. A man in a green jacket raised his hand, then another, then a third. The bidding went to $38,000 and stopped. The man in the green jacket won. His name was Carl Reinhardt. He owned 400 acres south of town, and he had been farming for 16 years. He smiled when the auctioneer pointed at him. Carl bought 3 more tractors that morning. A 5640 for $9,000, a 6640 for $11,000, an older 3930 for $4,500. He had brought a checkbook, but he did not write anything down. He told Doug he would arrange financing through the bank in town. Doug said that was fine. He gave Carl a handwritten receipt and moved on to the next buyer. By 11 o'clock, 21 tractors had sold. The lot was thinning out. Some men had come only to watch. Others had planned to bid, but changed their minds when the prices climbed. A few had bought 1 tractor and left. Virgil Trask was still there. He stood near the back of the lot, away from the crowd, hands in his pockets. He was 53 years old. He had been farming the same 240 acres since 1971. His father had bought the land in 1948. Virgil had inherited it in 1979. He grew corn and soybeans. He did his own repairs. He had bought his first tractor from Harold Kemper in 1972, a Ford 5000. He had paid it off in 3 years. Virgil did not talk much. He had come to the auction because he needed a tractor. His 7710 had a cracked engine block and the repair cost more than the tractor was worth. He had decided to let it go. He had $17,000 in a savings account. He had decided he would spend $15,000. The auctioneer moved to the older equipment, a 3930 with a loader, It had rust along the hood and the front tires were worn unevenly. The auctioneer opened at 3,000. No one raised a hand. He dropped to 2,500. Still nothing. He looked around the lot. "Come on now," he said. "This one still runs." Virgil raised his hand. The auctioneer pointed at him. 2,500, he said. "Anyone else?" No one moved. "Sold," the auctioneer said. Virgil walked to the trailer and paid in cash. Doug gave him a receipt and the keys. Virgil drove the tractor onto his flatbed and tied it down with chains. He did not stay for the rest of the auction. He left before noon. Carl Reinhardt stayed until the end. He bought 2 more tractors in the afternoon, a 4630 for $6,800 and another 66640 for $12,000. In total, he spent $76,000. He arranged financing through Midwest Agricultural Credit. The terms were 10 years at 9.5% interest. The payments were just under $1,000 a month. Carl signed the paperwork on Monday morning. He told the loan officer that land prices were going up and yields were improving. He said he planned to lease another 200 acres by fall. The loan officer nodded and pushed the papers across the desk. Carl drove home with the TW-35 on a flatbed behind his truck. His wife Janet was standing in the driveway when he pulled in. She looked at the tractor and then at him. He smiled. "It is a good deal," he said. Harold was practically giving them away. Janet did not say anything. She went back into the house. That night, Carl sat at the kitchen table and wrote down numbers on a legal pad. The tractors would let him farm more ground. More ground meant more income. More income meant the payments would be easy. He had done the math 3 times. It worked every time. He went to bed after midnight. Janet was already asleep. He lay on his back and looked at the ceiling. He thought about the TW-35 sitting in the machine shed. He thought about how it looked in the sun. He fell asleep smiling. Virgil got home before 1 o'clock. He unloaded the 3930 in front of the shed and parked his truck. His wife Marie was in the garden pulling weeds from around the tomato plants. She stood up when she heard him. He walked over and told her what he had paid. She nodded. "That is fair," she said. They went inside and ate lunch. Virgil did not talk about the other tractors. He did not talk about the TW-35, or the bidding, or the men who had spent 5 times what he had. Marie did not ask. After lunch, Virgil went back outside and started the 3930. It ran rough for the first minute, then smoothed out. He checked the oil and the hydraulic fluid. Both were low. He topped them off. He greased the fittings and tightened the loader mounts. He spent the rest of the afternoon going over the tractor. By evening, he knew what it needed: a fuel filter, new belts, a tie rod end on the left front, maybe $400 in parts. He ate dinner and went to bed early. He did not think about the auction. He thought about the field work he would start in 2 weeks. The first year was good for both of them. Carl leased 210 acres from a retired farmer named Ed Howell. The land was flat and the soil was decent. Carl planted all of it in corn. He used the TW-35 to pull a 12-row planter he had bought used. The tractor handled it easily. He finished planting in 6 days. That summer, the weather cooperated. There was rain in June and heat in July. The corn came in strong. Carl hired a crew to help with harvest. He sold everything at the elevator in October. After expenses, he cleared $41,000. He made his loan payments on time. He bought a new pickup in December. He told Janet that next year would be even better. Virgil planted his usual acres, corn on 120, soybeans on the rest. He used the 3930 for field work and a neighbor's combine for harvest. His yields were average. He sold the corn in November and the soybeans in January. After expenses, he had $19,000. He put $12,000 back into savings. He used the rest for property taxes and a new well pump. Marie asked him if he wanted to lease more ground. He said no. She did not ask again. The second year was harder. Carl's loan payments were $973 a month. He made them in January and February. In March, he missed one. He called the bank and explained that he was waiting on a delayed payment from a seed contract. The loan officer said that was fine. Carl made a double payment in April. In May, he leased another 100 acres. The rent was higher than the year before. He planted it all in soybeans. The weather was dry. He irrigated when he could, but the pivots were old, and one of them broke down in July. He paid for the repair out of pocket, $3,200. The soybeans came in thin. He sold them in October for less than he had expected. After expenses, he lost money on the leased ground. He missed 2 loan payments in the fall. The bank sent a letter in November. Carl called and arranged a payment plan. He sold one of the smaller tractors, the 4630, to a farmer in the next county. He got $5,500 for it. He used the money to catch up on the loan. Janet asked him if they should sell another tractor. He said no. He said the next year would be better. She did not argue. Virgil had a decent year. His yields were slightly below average, but his costs were low. He did not lease more ground. He did not buy new equipment. He repaired the 3930 twice, a hydraulic line in June, a starter in September. Both times he did the work himself. In December, he paid off a small equipment loan he had carried since 1984. He was debt-free. Marie asked him if he wanted to take a trip. He said maybe next year. She smiled and said that was fine. The third year, Carl missed 4 payments. The weather was bad. It rained too much in the spring and not enough in the summer. His corn yields were down 30%. His soybean yields were worse. He sold everything at a loss. In October, the bank sent another letter. This one was not polite. Carl drove to town and sat in the loan officer's office for an hour. He explained the weather. He explained the yields. He explained that he had equity in the tractors and the land lease contracts were solid. The loan officer listened. Then he said that the bank needed consistent payments or they would begin foreclosure proceedings. Carl sold 2 more tractors, the 5640 and one of the 6640s. He got $14,000 total. It was not enough. He refinanced the remaining debt at a higher interest rate. The new payments were $1,100 a month. Janet stopped asking questions. She started working part-time at the grocery store in town. Virgil's third year was average. He lost a week of planting time to rain, but the rest of the season was manageable. His corn came in at 138 bushels per acre, his soybeans at 42. He sold everything in the fall and cleared $22,000. He replaced the clutch on the 3930. He rebuilt the carburetor. He repainted the hood. The tractor had 4,900 hours on it. It started every time. Marie's mother died that winter. They drove to Illinois for the funeral. On the way back, Marie asked Virgil if he had ever regretted not expanding. He thought about it for a long time. Then he said no. She nodded and looked out the window. The 4th year, Carl stopped going to church. He missed 6 loan payments. The bank foreclosed on the TW35 in August. They sent a truck and a deputy sheriff. Carl stood in the driveway and watched them load the tractor onto a flatbed. Janet stood on the porch. She did not cry. Carl still owed $41,000. He sold the last 66-cent 40 and the 3930 he had bought at the auction. He got $9,000 for both. The bank applied it to the debt. He still owed $32,000. In November, the bank foreclosed on the lease contracts. Carl lost access to all of the rented ground. He still had his original 400 acres, but the mortgage was behind. He borrowed money from his brother in Iowa. He used it to make 3 payments. Then he stopped. Janet filed for separation in February. She moved into an apartment in town. Carl stayed on the farm. He did not plant anything that spring. Virgil's 4th year was quiet. He planted the same acres. He harvested in October. He cleared $18,000. He bought a used hay baler from a neighbor. He paid cash. Marie's brother visited in July. He asked Virgil if he had ever thought about getting bigger equipment. Virgil said no. Marie's brother said that was probably smart. The 5th year, the bank took Carl's farm. He did not fight it. He signed the papers in April and moved out in May. He rented a house in town and got a job at the co-op. He unloaded trucks and swept floors. He did not talk to anyone about farming. Janet stayed in her apartment. They did not reconcile. The divorce was finalized in 1993. Carl's brother asked him once what had gone wrong. Carl said he did not know. He said the numbers had made sense. He said the tractors were good. He said the land was good. He said he had just run out of time. His brother did not ask again. Virgil farmed his 240 acres. He planted corn and soybeans. He used the 3930 and a neighbor's equipment when he needed it. His yields were average. His costs were low. He made his payments to no one. In 1995, land prices dropped. Several farms in the county went up for sale. Virgil looked at two of them. One was 160 acres adjacent to his property. The seller was asking $90,000. Virgil offered $70,000. The seller accepted. Virgil paid cash. He did not borrow money. He did not finance anything. He used the money he had saved over 8 years. After the purchase, he had $11,000 left in his account. Marie asked him if that was enough. He said it was. By 1998, Virgil was farming 400 acres. He bought another piece of land in 1997, 80 acres. He paid $53,000, cash. The 3930 had 7,200 hours on it. Virgil replaced the transmission. He rebuilt the rear end. He painted it again. It started every time. In 2001, a man from the next county called and asked if Virgil wanted to sell the tractor. He said he collected old New Hollands. He offered $8,000. Virgil said no thank you. In 2003, Virgil bought another 120 acres. The seller was a widow whose husband had died 2 years earlier. She was moving to Arizona. She asked for $110,000. Virgil paid it, cash. He was 69 years old. He was farming 520 acres. He owned it all. He owed nothing. Marie asked him when he would retire. He said he did not know. She said that was fine. In 2005, a younger farmer named Derek Moss started renting ground near Virgil's property. Derek was 31. He had grown up in town. His father had been a banker. Derek had gone to college and studied agriculture. He had come back with ideas about precision farming and variable rate seeding and satellite imagery. He leased 400 acres his first year. He bought a New Holland T7040 with GPS and auto steer. He financed it over 7 years. He planted corn and soybeans and tracked every input down to the ounce. His first year, his yields were excellent. He made money. He told people at the co-op that modern equipment was the only way to compete. One afternoon in November, Derek stopped by Virgil's place. Virgil was in the shed, changing the oil on the 3930. Derek walked in and looked around. He saw the tractor and smiled. "That is a relic," he said. Virgil did not look up. "It runs," he said. Derek laughed. "I bet it does," he said. "But you could be doing twice the work in half the time with a newer machine." Virgil wiped his hands on a rag. "I do not need to do twice the work," he said. Derek shrugged. "Suit yourself," he said, "but land does not wait. If you are not growing, you are dying." Virgil finished tightening the oil filter. He stood up and looked at Derek. "I am not dying," he said. Derek nodded and left. In 2007, Derek leased another 300 acres. He bought a second tractor, a New Holland T7060. He financed it over 7 years. His payments were $2,600 a month for both machines. That fall, grain prices spiked. Derek made a significant profit. He told everyone who would listen that he had been right. Growth was the only strategy. In 2008, everything changed. Grain prices collapsed in the fall. Credit tightened. Input costs stayed high. Derek's yields were average, but his profit margins disappeared. He missed 2 payments on his tractors. The bank sent a letter. He refinanced at a higher rate. His new payments were $3,000 a month. In 2009, Derek missed 4 payments. The bank foreclosed on the T760 in August. Derek tried to renegotiate the lease contracts, but the landowners would not budge. He lost access to 200 acres. In 2010, the bank foreclosed on the T7040. Derek sold his remaining equipment at auction. He moved to Omaha and got a job selling insurance. Virgil heard about it from a man at the co-op. He did not say anything. He went home and worked on his tractor. In 2012, Virgil bought Derek's old lease ground, 160 acres. The owner sold it to him for $98,000. Virgil paid cash. He was 78 years old. He was farming 680 acres. He owned all of it. He owed nothing. The 3930 had 11,000 hours on it. Virgil replaced the front axle. He rebuilt the hydraulic pump. He replaced the seat. It started every time. In 2015, a reporter from the county newspaper came out to do a story about longtime farmers. She asked Virgil how he had managed to stay in business when so many others had not. Virgil thought about it. Then he said he had bought 1 tractor and kept it running. The reporter asked if there was more to it than that. Virgil said no. She asked if he had any advice for young farmers. Virgil said he did not give advice. She thanked him and left. The story ran the following week. It was 3 paragraphs long. It did not mention the auction. It did not mention Carl Reinhardt or Derek Moss. It did not mention Harold Kemper's dealership or the TW-35 or the loan payments. It said that Virgil Trask had farmed the same land for 44 years and had never borrowed money for equipment. It said he still used a 1987 New Holland 3930. It said he had no plans to retire. Marie cut the article out and put it in a drawer. She did not frame it. She did not show it to anyone. In 2017, a man from South Dakota called and asked if Virgil would sell the 3930. He said he was starting a small farm museum. He offered $15,000. Virgil said no. In 2019, Virgil turned 85. His son asked him if he wanted help with the planting. Virgil said no. He planted all 680 acres himself. It took him 4 weeks. The 3930 had 13,000 hours on it. It started every time. That fall, Virgil sold his corn and soybeans. After expenses, he cleared $61,000. He put $30,000 into savings. He used the rest to replace the roof on his house and buy a new refrigerator. Marie asked him when he would stop. He said he did not know. In 2020, there was a pandemic. Grain prices fluctuated wildly. Some farmers made money. Some lost everything. Virgil planted his acres and harvested in the fall. He cleared $54,000. He did not change anything. In 2021, land prices in the county reached record highs. A corporate farm offered Virgil $2.1 million for his 680 acres. He said no. The representative asked why. Virgil said he was still farming it. The representative said that Virgil was 87 years old. He said that most men his age were retired. He said that the offer was generous. Virgil thanked him and hung up the phone. In 2023, Virgil planted his corn in late April. He used the 3930. It had 14,200 hours on it. The engine was original. The transmission had been rebuilt twice. The paint was faded. The seat was cracked. It started every time. On a Thursday morning in June, Virgil was disking a field when the tractor coughed and stopped. He tried to restart it. Nothing happened. He checked the fuel. It was full. He checked the battery. It was good. He sat in the seat for a long time. Then he climbed down and walked back to the house. He called a mechanic he had known for 30 years. The mechanic came out that afternoon. He looked at the tractor for 20 minutes. Then he said the fuel pump was gone and the injectors were scored. He said it would cost more to fix than the tractor was worth. Virgil asked him how much. The mechanic said maybe $6,000, maybe more. Virgil said he would think about it. That night, he sat at the kitchen table with Marie. She asked him what he wanted to do. He said he did not know. She said they could afford a newer tractor. She said they had the money. Virgil nodded. He said that was true. Marie waited. Virgil did not say anything else. The next morning, Virgil called the mechanic. He told him to fix the tractor. The mechanic said it would take 3 weeks. Virgil said that was fine. The repair cost $6,800. Virgil paid cash. The 3930 was back in the field by July. Virgil finished the disking. He planted soybeans. He harvested in October. His yields were average. He cleared $59,000. In November, a man from the state agriculture department came out to interview Virgil for a project about multi-generational farms. The man asked how long Virgil had been farming. Virgil said 52 years. The man asked what Virgil thought was the key to longevity in farming. Virgil said he did not spend money he did not have. The man asked if Virgil had ever been tempted to expand faster. Virgil said no. The man asked why. Virgil said because he had seen what happened to people who did. The man asked if Virgil could give an example. Virgil thought about Carl Reinhardt standing in his driveway watching the bank take his tractor. He thought about Derek Moss laughing in the shed and calling the 3930 a relic. He thought about the auction in 1987 and the TW-35 and the men who had raised their hands over and over until they owned something they could not afford. Virgil said no. He said he could not give an example. The man thanked him and left. In 2024, Virgil turned 90. He planted 680 acres. He used the 3930. It started every time. That fall, his son asked him again when he would retire. Virgil said he would think about it. Marie asked him the same question. He gave her the same answer. In December, Virgil and Marie sat on the porch and watched the sun go down over the fields. The corn was gone, the ground was dark, the sky was orange, and then purple and then black. Marie asked Virgil if he was happy. He said yes. She asked him if he had any regrets. He said no. She asked him if he thought about the auction. He said sometimes. She asked him what he thought about. He said he thought about the men who had bid too much. He said he thought about how easy it had been to walk away. Marie nodded. She said she was glad he had. Virgil did not say anything. They sat in the dark and listened to the wind. Somewhere in town, in a small apartment above the hardware store, Carl Reinhardt sat alone and watched television. He was 74 years old. He had not farmed in 33 years. He had not owned land in 32. He worked at the co-op until he was 67. He retired on Social Security. He did not have savings. He did not have family nearby. He thought about the auction sometimes. He thought about the TW35 and how good it had looked in the sun. He thought about the numbers he had written on the legal pad. He thought about how they had made sense. He did not think about Virgil Trask. He did not know that Virgil still farmed. He did not know that Virgil had bought the land that Carl had lost. He did not know that Virgil still used the tractor he had bought for $2,500 in 1987. Carl went to bed at 9 o'clock. He did not dream. Virgil went to bed at 10. He woke at 5:30. He made coffee and went outside. The 3930 was in the shed. He walked over and looked at it. The paint was faded. The tires were worn. The seat was cracked. He climbed into the seat and turned the key. It started every time.